What is up, ladies and gentlemen? And today we're going to be talking about concept design philosophies. And this is kind of be something entirely new of what I've been doing on my videos that I've been making on whether if it's new games or old games in general. But the reason why I decided to do Mass Effect is because even though I have talked about this game in general before, is that I failed to really tell myself to what I really want to really entail when it comes to the concept design of this game, because I think Mass Effect is one of those games to where it's fairly unique from that any other RPG game I've ever played. I mean, I have not played any other RPGs if I can remember or recall. But I think what made Mass Effect 1 so unique for me as a gamer is the fact that it has to do with what this game really utilizes itself to be as a game, not just as a science fiction third person shooter, which I have always been able to know to play. Whether if they are science fiction, whether if they are extra adventure like Assassin's Creed or like Uncharted or Tomb Raider, however. But I think when it comes to Mass Effect, this game really does a really good job of utilizing its systems, of its gameplay, its leveling up structure, its story mechanics, and vice versa. And this game is fairly unique in that type of regard, because that's where I feel like that where Mass Effect is involved is that it knows what it's doing. I love a world when a game knows what it's doing in terms of its story and character progression, and that's where I feel like that any kind of games that I have played when it comes to single player games in general, I think Mass Effect does an amazing job with that, in my personal opinion, because not just because it's a single player game, it's the fact that I love the world of the game itself. I love the characters. I like Garrus. I like, or not Rex. I like playing as my own type of Shepard. And, it's the fact that I really enjoy, this game as a whole, because I love the ending to this game. And I think the ending of this game was absolutely amazing, in my personal opinion. And so I really just think that when it comes to a game like Mass Effect, it's the fact that it's science fiction, it's everything of what this game really does for itself, and how it utilizes a good way of circumference of the gameplay along with the story, and I think that's where it really falls under as an amazing game of its time, in my personal opinion, because I have never played any other BioWare game before like Mass Effect. I mean, scratch that, because I have played Anthem. Did not like that game very much as I wanted to, but either or, I still think that game, it was okay to its own type of degree. But that's where Mass Effect 1 really comes to a certain type of taste of style when it comes to a game like Mass Effect. When I played this game for the first time back in the PS3 days, when it came to PlayStation 3 eventually, excuse me, I didn't really know what I was expecting, to be quite honest, because I felt like, do I really want to know what I'm getting myself into? It was one of those types of scenarios. And so it's like, I really thought that I wasn't going to enjoy this game as a whole, to be honest, because I really think when it came to this game at first, I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do here? I always ask myself, what's the story going to be like? What's the character progression going to be like? I never really understood that until when I finally played this game or finished it on my PlayStation 3. And then many years later, when I initially found out that they were going to make a Legendary Edition, which I have decided to go back and replay Mass Effect 1 again. I actually played Mass Effect 1 again more than once. And what I will say, this game is by far my favorite Mass Effect game of all time. Opposite that of 2, of course, because I would say, well, actually, no, scratch that, because I would say, I think Mass Effect 2 would be my all-time favorite, then 1, and then 3. I didn't play much, I did play much of 3, but however, I didn't really finish it, and I probably should. But either or, it's like I just didn't really thoroughly enjoy 3 as much as I wanted to, even though how long I played it. And I really wish I would really convince myself to not just replay 3, but really finish 3, because it's like I understand that 3 actually ended up getting some flack because of the ending. But however, it's like I'm still trying to really force myself to get into it just so I can, understand the whole entire crux of that game itself and how it really intertwines along or intermingles with, Mass Effect 1 storyline and Mass Effect 2 storyline, because it has to do with choices. And that's one of the things I really haven't really quite understood when I first played this game at the very start, when I played it on my PS3 days as well, is that I did not know that these games were always. I did not know that Mass Effect 1 was coinciding into 2, and then Mass Effect 2 coinciding into 3, because of the choices that you made in all 3 games, and how they were going to initially have a choice and type of consequence type of thing. And so it's like I'd never really played these kinds of games before, and that's why I'm saying, and that's why I want to make a video on this, because I think it's utterly important to know that I really think when it comes to playing a game like this, when having that choice and consequence type of thing, it's all new to me. And so I think that's why I like this game series as a whole. Opposite, like I said before, playing only 1 and 2 and playing almost halfway through 3, but even like I said before, I should really convince myself to play all the way through 3 and then go full force of what I truly think about this trilogy as a whole. But overall, I'm talking about Mass Effect 1 here, because I think when it came to Mass Effect 1's story, it was one of the best, I would say. And like I said, I really can't say I love the story in 2. I thought the Mass Effect 2 story was absolutely amazing. And I was actually able to save everyone in Mass Effect 2 as well. And I was really happy about that, because I literally thought sometimes I often thought that I was making like some wrong mistakes or wrong choices, but I actually ended up making all the right choices, which was very interesting for me, because I normally don't always make the right choices when it comes to me playing these types of games. And so that's why it's very remarkable that I was actually able to do that. So, anyways, what I'm saying is that with Mass Effect 1, though, I love the whole entire game from beginning to end, because of the fact that how this game really influenced me to be as a single player gamer as I am, because that's usually normally what I always like to play are single player games. A new Assassin's Creed game is coming out next week. Assassin's Creed Mirage. I have been playing some older school titles of the same name, but however, I digress. I'm just veering off topic just a little bit here, so my apologies on that. But however, I still think that Mass Effect 1 really does an amazing job of its world concept design. I love the gameplay design. I love the way how it feels. And what I will say is that they did actually a really good job with its with some revamping of the game gunplay mechanics in the Legendary Edition of the original game itself back in the PS3 and Xbox 360 days. And I can instantly, when I played this game more than once, and I can instantly say that it's a lot better than it used to be. And so I'm really thoroughly impressed that they were able to do something with that. But however, I think what really stuck me the most with this game, for the most part, is the story. Because I love really good stories when it comes to any kind of game, no matter if it's a science fiction or fantasy or action adventure. It doesn't matter to me, because I always like a good single player story, and I think Mass Effect 1 really did an amazing job in all fronts on that, because it's like I more often than not, I really enjoy having a good story and how it's really going to forthwith of what kind of a choice of consequence a game could have towards like a sequel like Mass Effect 2 or like Mass Effect 3. And I think Mass Effect 1 just does an amazing job with that, and I love that. I love the fact that there are games that are like this, even much like the Mass Effect games. And it's good to show you that I really think that it's important to have single-player games in general, because it's like I really think that when it comes to single-player games like Mass Effect or any other games that have that choice of consequence thing, much like Dragon Age, which I have never played before. I have played a little bit of Dragon Age Inquisition, but I didn't play much of it or finish it at all. But all I can say is that I do believe that there are certain things that I do believe that games like that of this type of nature do have a place in the gaming community or in the gaming industry as a whole, because I really think that when it comes to Mass Effect, I think Mass Effect just does a really good job in all fronts on that. But I'm not saying that any kind of role-playing games does have like a good choice and consequence type of gameplay mechanic. Much like Baldur's Gate 3, I know that has that though too as well, which I have not played, but it's a turn-based. So I'm not a really big fan of turn-based. So that's what I'm saying. It's like I will never know what that game's going to be like because I don't like turn-based. So I'm just pointing my own opinion preference out there. So my apologies if you think that I'm discouraging or not condoning Baldur's Gate 3. I'm not being hated. I'm not hating on it. It's just not my cup of tea. But however, I think when it comes to Mass Effect, this game still holds true in 2023. I do highly recommend replaying this game if anyone has it all, because I'm sure a lot of Mass Effect fans have. I sure have had played this game more than once, and it still fascinates me. And what I will say is that I think Mass Effect 1 has one of the best endings I've ever seen in a role-playing game. Opposite of that, Mass Effect 2's ending was absolutely amazing as well. But I cannot compare enough that Mass Effect 1... I do believe that Mass Effect 2 does have a better ending to a certain degree. But however, I do think that Mass Effect 1 it does a unanimous job of portraying an ending much like what Mass Effect 1 does. Because I think Mass Effect 1 does an amazing job of showing who is the bad guy or who is the good guy involved in so many different types of aspects of conflict. And I think that's where Mass Effect 1 does a really good job with that, in my personal opinion, because I think the boss battle going up against Saren in Mass Effect 1 was just absolutely astonishing. It was absolutely amazing, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, I cannot harp on that enough, because I think that's where, when it comes to story-driven games, much like Mass Effect, that has that choice and consequence thing. But however, I just think that when any kind of single-player game out there can have that type of impact on a gamer, much like yourself or much like myself as a whole. And I really hope that I can get games like that can do that to me as well. Much other games like that with that type of implementation, and I love that type of concept to it. And so one thing in particular I would really like to put in here though too is that I really think that Mass Effect its world building is astonishing. I love the world building design in this game. Each mission is going to have its own type of unique infrastructure of its mission design and where you got to go in order to complete specific missions, either if you're on the Citadel or if you go into different types of planets, and utilizing certain types of companions that you will be using. Much like me, because I'm playing as an infiltrator, and it's definitely one of my favorite classes. It is a little tough to play with, but once you really get used to it and utilize specific types of skills that you can be able to use against the Geth or any type of synthetics or organics in this game, you will eventually get overpowered. And I actually ended up importing my import of my infiltrator class on Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2, and it's much better in Mass Effect 2 than it was in Mass Effect 1, but however, in Mass Effect 1, it was still much overpowered. So I would say I think the infiltrator is like one of my favorite classes, but however, I have played the soldier class before. That's way too overpowered, but one cannot say enough that it's okay to be overpowered in a game like a Mass Effect game, because I think these games you are meant to be overpowered in some games, and I just think that Mass Effect 1 does a really good job with that utilization and concept of it, and it's fascinating. So, but one thing I will put in a matter of comparison as well is that what I really think about Mass Effect as a whole, or a series as a whole, or a franchise as a whole, is that this game definitely reminds me of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, or any kind of Star Trek game out there, or a game, or a movie out there, or TV show. because this game does have different types of races or creatures, that sort of thing, and it's fascinating to me. And I really wish that we can see games like Mass Effect again. And I know that they do have another Mass Effect game in the works, and I'm thoroughly excited. I have not played much of Andromeda. I have thought about maybe trying to maybe possibly re-download that and maybe give that game a try again, but I digress. But we'll see if and when, if I ever will do that or not. I'm not sure. But however, I do eventually thought about get back into that game as well too. So, but either or, I like to say, I just think that Mass Effect is definitely one of my favorite games of all time. Like I said, I really want to get back into Mass Effect 3. I might actually end up doing that. But anyways, too much further ado. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to reply back if and whenever possible. And you guys have a good rest of your weekend. I'll chat with you guys later. Peace.